Hello, welcome to the 91st episode of the Karstcast Moviecast. Jeff Borislow.
Your place for info on the movies you love.
I feel like we both threw ourselves off just now because I said your full name, which I never do, and then you said something else.
I said like a fake motto for our podcast.
Yeah.
This is not the podcast for info on the movies you love. Honestly, like what I learned after being on it is that is the Intercut podcast. Yep. That is the podcast for the info on movies you love. You get a lot more.
You get a lot of info. You get a quick, snappy discussion from everybody.
Yeah, they even have like the video of like the rundown. Like,
yep,
it's crazy.
And we're like a minute in already. Haven't said anything.
We haven't said anything. I just promoted a different competing podcast, and I'm like, that podcast is way better than ours.
They're really good at what they do. Yeah. So.
Well, actually, this one time we can promote it because we were on their most recent episode.
We were on there. Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, if you guys are looking for a bonus Karstcast appearance this week, we were on the Intercut pod.
Yeah.
You may recognize that name from like 2 weeks ago because they were on our podcast.
They were on our podcast.
And we talk about David Fincher.
Yeah, and it actually, honestly, was some of our best work. And it wasn't even on our own podcast.
No, we were on our A game, yeah.
I watched a month's worth of movies for this podcast just for one of their episodes because they go so in-depth.
Yeah.
I had to watch like 4 or 5 movies. And they were David Fincher movies, so that was like a whole
They're
day.
long movies, yeah. Cool. Who is the Greek goddess of love? That's the trivia question today. Who is the Greek goddess of love?
Is that Persephone?
Nope, it is Aphrodite.
Aphrodite.
Yeah.
Aphrodite. Yeah, that was my third guess.
Yeah, let me give you one more. What are the grinding teeth called?
The grinding teeth?
The grinding teeth. Weird question. I don't know what that's really.
I feel like this is I don't know. It feels like the answer is very obvious, and I feel like it's molars.
That's it. Yep, that is it.
Okay, yeah. So that was a really easy question.
Yeah, it's just
a weird question.
It's not. It's barely a trivia question, to be honest. That's
like,
kind of
that. Yeah, that's just like if I asked you, what are the kicky limbs called? And you're like, I think it's feet, but that's just a really weird question.
Yeah.
And why is it phrased like that?
Yeah. So I don't know. At least we got Aphrodite. Well, you didn't get
Aphrodite.
It,
well, I didn't get that.
It was
one
a
at
good
all.
question, but
it was a good question that I got wrong, and then there was an easy weird question that I got right.
Yeah. So Jeff, how is Hanukkah going?
Yeah. So this is as we recorded. This is the 4th out of 8 nights. Now the thing is that my parents, because Hanukkah is a gift giving holiday. It's kind of like the Jewish Christmas. Now Hanukkah though wasn't actually that important of a holiday. It's just the fact that it falls near Christmas. I think Jews were just like, let's get our own like Christmas thing going. This one's already close. Let's make it our Christmas.
Yeah.
But the thing is that I also have a parent that is a Catholic. I mean, I think they're a Catholic. I don't know. I'm not that religious. They're definitely Christian. I think Catholic. That sounds right.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I also celebrate Christmas. And I did that, growing up.
So you get everything.
Now that I'm older, especially, I only want like a few things that are more expensive that I ask my parents to buy. So when I was younger, I would get like, you would get a gift every day of Hanukkah, which they still are doing, but now it's like, and even when I was growing up, because we had Christmas, it would be like half the days of Hanukkah, they were like, here's some chocolate.
Yeah. Nothing crazy.
You're not getting like a good gift every day. You would get like one, they would give me like one good one for the first day and one for the last day. And then besides that, I'd be like, now wait for Christmas.
Yeah.
Although sometimes Christmas overlaps with Hanukkah because Hanukkah changes every year.
I was gonna say,
some
it's
days
not like
you would have Christmas, and then at the end of the day, they just give you like one more present at night. Like, yeah, here's this one. You got to light some candles and say some stuff first.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, but other than that, it's cool. I got they gave me like a French knife.
Ooh.
So that's cool.
Yeah. That's fancy.
I have it somewhere.
Yeah.
Yeah, I got this French knife.
Ooh, wait.
You make this.
That's I don't think
you make this the thumbnail. Like
we're gonna get taken down or something. We're not even like monetized, and they'll still be like, "Yeah, we can't make." We're gonna make sure nobody sees this episode.
I think they already do that based on the
numbers. They're just like they listen to the first minute and they're like, "Ooh, yeah, this is a bad podcast."
I listened to the first minute of the last one to hear your new theme song.
You did? Yeah, I saw the comment. I was like, "Oh, Jeff listened. Did you like the new theme song?"
I like the new theme song. I don't remember what the one before that was.
It was the one with like the record scratches, and I implemented our part of our intro, like our channel trailer. Do you remember back when we recorded that, when we introduced each other?
When you went to the attic of my coach house,
yep,
that I lived in at the time.
That seems like ages ago.
It does, and it was less than 2 years ago.
Yeah. We were in your attic recording the first Karstcast. And I remember, okay. Anyways, I remember it's very unsatisfying because in our very first episode on Vice, we call it a bonus episode. But we never actually did like a bonus episode thing. So we're like, welcome to the bonus episode. But that's our very
It's the real episode.
Yeah. But anyways, that's cool. Yeah. I don't know anything about Hanukkah, so that was all very interesting.
Yeah, well, I'll go.
I know the
30
candles.
more seconds.
Yeah.
So you know what the deal with that is? There was like an oil lamp that they. So pretty much it was like a lamp that the oil lasted like a bit longer than they thought.
Yeah.
Like they were anticipating that they only had enough oil to light this lamp for one night, but it ended up being
8 nights.
8 nights.
Yeah. So they were like, let's make
if you want to know. Yeah, if you want to know more about it, watch the Adam Sandler animated film 8 Crazy Nights.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I saw that in theaters because, again, that's a movie. You're like at all Jewish, you're like a Jewish film in theaters.
Right. The most recent is Uncut Gems, I'd say. That was a. I remember.
I don't know. I mean, yeah, it's a film with a lot of Jews in it. I wouldn't call that a film about being Jewish.
They celebrate Hanukkah in it at one point.
They do.
I remember.
That's true.
Nick told me that he was going to try and go see it last year on Christmas, and it was sold out everywhere because I think all the Jewish people that don't celebrate Christmas were like, "Yeah, let's go see Uncut Gems."
So that was a thing I know from my like growing up. My dad, who is the Jewish one. So for people listening. Yeah, technically being Jewish like is passed down through the mother, so I'm like ethnically half Jewish, but I'm not technically like Jewish. I don't care. But here's the thing: my dad's family used to go and eat at like Chinese restaurants because that's what Jews would do on Christmas. It's like a notorious thing that Jews go and eat at Chinese restaurants.
I had no idea
on Christmas because they're the only restaurants that are open.
That's super funny. Wow. Damn. Well, that's cool. I just got back from my cabin. That's all that I've been up to this week. And I'm only bringing it up because, so what we did, it's like a quick, small story here. Instead of buying a Christmas tree, my dad just ventures into the woods and chops one down there.
Is that legal?
I don't know. But for the sake of not getting in trouble, let's say this hypothetically happened. And so this year he was like, oh, you guys should all come and we can all like pick out a tree together. So we venture into like we go down this like long dirt road and we're in like the middle of nowhere. We lose service completely. There's like no internet there. And for some reason, all of us, besides my mom, were like, let's leave our phones in the car. We didn't say that, but none of us brought our phones when we went into the woods. And so we went in and my mom and dad went like far. They just kept walking. And I was like, well, we can see our footsteps.
You were, okay, real quick. You were just looking for a tree, though.
Just looking for a Christmas tree, yeah.
Like, I feel like there's a lot of trees.
Yeah, but you got to find, like, a good one. Because, I mean,
there's... You're just passing hundreds of trees.
Yeah, but, like, a lot of them are giant. You got to find, like, the nicely sized, like, easy to cut down. And then... So, there's just this patch that my dad knows about. Again, don't know if this is legal. but it's like a good patch of Christmas trees that he found.
Some guy's lot where he grows Christmas trees.
I'm like, wow, there's a lot of like really nice trees in this area. I guess we're gonna
really well maintained.
Yeah. So we're deep in there, and it's like kind of snowy. So I'm like, we have our like footsteps, but we cut down the tree, whatever. And then my dad decides to go in like the opposite direction of the road, which I called. I was like, hey, this is not where we went. And he's like, he was just like frustrated. So he's like, no, we're going this way. And I was like, okay. And then my mom started going a different way because she's like, no, it's over here, which was also the wrong way. So eventually...
Ooh, the classic Scooby-Doo splitting up strategy. That's always a good move.
Yeah. And so eventually the thing is, we had our footsteps on our way back to the trail, but now that we've all ventured out into different areas, footsteps are all over the place. So I'm like, oh my God. We just like walked to a certain point. Mind you, my dad's carrying a Christmas tree the entire time. And he's like, yeah, there's not a road anywhere near. And I'm like, yeah. So we try to backtrack, and then we get even more lost. And then I'm just like, oh my God, this is terrible. We're like in the middle of the woods, and my mom did not know like what the compass thing was on her phone. She was following a different arrow, but it was just an icon that didn't move. She's like, it kept telling us that way. I'm like, that wasn't the compass. And then, yeah. So we were like wandering around in the woods for a solid like 45 minutes. Mm-hmm. I saw like a giant white hare, which was beautiful, but that was the only good thing about it.
At the time, did you think it was like a metaphor that you were about to die?
Yeah. I was like, because well, that's the other thing. My dad kept seeing that white hare, and he's like, we'd be like all stressed out, and he'd be like, everybody quiet. And we just like look at the hare. I'm like, Dad, I want to go home. I don't care. We eventually made it out though, because I figured out the compass on my mom's phone. But nobody else in my family was scared, and I told them on the way home, I was like, I'm gonna talk about this on my podcast, and they were like, you're gonna overhype it. That was not that crazy of a story, and I was like, we almost died. I mean...
Yeah, so, because it was, I imagine, pretty cold.
It was cold, yeah, and I didn't have gloves like an idiot. I had a nice hat. This is right after... I don't know if you saw the selfie I posted on Twitter with the big hat.
Oh, I did see that, yeah.
This happened like 10 minutes after I posted that. I was leaving to go do this, and then... So I'm like running around in the woods looking like that, and I'm just... It was bad.
Yeah, if that happened here, you would have been fine. Honestly, you would have been too warm. You would have had to like take off your shirt and like tie it around your waist.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, in Florida, there wouldn't be a problem at all.
Yeah. In Florida, also, I'm in like the most densely populated county in the entire state, so there aren't woods really.
Yeah.
Like there's no woods where if you walked in a straight line for more than 30 minutes, you wouldn't get out of in this county.
That's nice. That's reassuring. Well, but you guys have like gators and stuff. I'd be more.
Oh, there are gators.
Scared
of that. One thing I learned, I didn't know this until I saw on the internet. Not in my county, but like in northern Florida, there's bears.
Oh.
I didn't know Florida had bears.
Florida has bear. What kind of bears?
Yeah, we also have like black bears, I think.
Wow.
Yeah, we also have panthers.
No way. Panthers.
I knew that because that's our state animal. Our state animal is the Florida panther.
Oh, I think I knew that. Also, the Florida black bear. It's a subspecies of the American black bear that has historically ranged throughout most of Florida. Wow. That's fascinating. There's also a Louisiana black bear.
I've never seen one.
There's a cinnamon bear. Oh, that's a beautiful... Okay, cool. Anyways. Nice. Well...
wait, is there any cool segue you can make?
I was about to say... Well, speaking of the sounds of nothing... Well, speaking of... Speaking of
There's
silence,
really nothing.
Because the woods were very quiet. That was the terrifying part. Is if we screamed, no one could hear us. So speaking of silence, today we're talking about.
Yeah, we'll go with it.
Yeah, Sound of Metal. This is it premiered at TIFF in 2019, but it's technically a 2020 movie because it really hasn't released until this year, or had like a mass distribution. A lot of people are saying it's a 2020 release, so I'm going to say it's a 2020 release. It's directed by Darius Martyr. Hopefully I'm pronouncing that right.
Martyr, it's Marter.
Der. Martyr.
D-E-R, martyr.
Martyr.
But it's not martyr like the religious
right.
like.
That's why I was like,
it's not that.
That's just The synopsis reads: a heavy metal drummer's life is thrown into free fall when he begins to lose his hearing. That's it. Very short and sweet. So that's already on a good note with this movie.
It doesn't even have any of the actors in it because normally they're like in parentheses like the actor's name
played by Steve Buscemi.
Yeah. What if Steve Buscemi was the main character in this film?
He'd do a great job, to be honest. I think he fits the heavy metal vibe.
He could have been the guy in charge of like
the community or whatever program. He could have been.
He could have done that.
On a weird coincidence, like it is Steve Buscemi's birthday today at the time of recording this. It is December 13th, so happy birthday, Steve.
It is?
Yeah, I saw like 2 Instagram posts about it. But okay, you know what I'll say right off the bat is, and I don't know if you're on the same page. I think this is one of the saddest movies we've talked about on the podcast. Maybe I'm alone, but I thought this was a downer of a movie, at least. Maybe.
I don't know if I completely agree with that. It's definitely a fairly sad film.
Yeah. We've talked about sadder films.
I for sure. I mean, obviously, to get more into whether or not I think, why I think it's how sad I think it is, we'd have to kind of get into spoilers,
right?
Which I think we're not doing quite yet.
No, not yet.
But I would just say that, I think it's definitely a sad film. But I would, of the 91 films that we talked about more than that. Some we've done 2.
We've done double features.
Probably about 100 films. Yeah. Let's just say we're at 100 films.
6-minute Dougal clip. Yeah.
Yeah, 6-minute Dougal clip. I mean, that was pretty sad.
that was a tearjerker, yeah. 6-minute Dougal clip.
Weren't they like in a mine car or something in this clip? Yeah.
We were having a rough week that week. We were not on our, but it made for a great episode.
Yeah. Okay, I do want to say though that I didn't actually look this up and I really should have. What was the budget of this film?
That's a good question. You know what? I will actually look that up real quick.
Because it has to be like, I'm guessing like in the 5 million range.
Yeah.
But it's definitely a low budget film and you can tell, but I think this to me is what a low budget indie film should be.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It's a film that has some interesting like technical choices, like the way this film plays with hearing and sound.
Yeah.
And also just the subject matter obviously is not something that you're gonna find in a blockbuster film.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
imagine
it's this film, but it's starring Chris Pratt and there's just explosions in it randomly. He loses his hearing in a giant explosion.
Yeah.
No, but for me, this was like the epitome of what I think these like low budget indie films should be doing.
Totally agree. Yeah. I did try to look up the budget and I think it's such a new release and pretty small that it's not available, but I can imagine it was pretty small.
Yeah. I definitely easily below 10 million.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, this is, I will say this, like this movie has had like a weird journey to get to this point, and I know this happens with tons of movies, but it is crazy that like this was at TIFF the year I was at TIFF, which was a long time ago. It feels like like over a year ago.
Did you see this at TIFF?
No, I remember like seeing it in the lineup and like considering getting tickets and being like, I gotta prioritize these others. I'm kind of bummed because I would have loved to see this on the big screen. I imagine the sound design, which we'll get into, would have been crazy. But yeah, it's just now getting a release. I think just because of a lot of postpone situation with the pandemic and but I think even like as an at-home release, it still works really well and is a pretty great movie.
Okay, how do you feel about the title?
Sound of Metal. I keep saying The Sound of Metal, but it's just Sound of Metal. What are you going to say about the title?
I think it's kind of dumb.
We don't hear a lot of metal.
It sounds like something someone would say before they hit you across the head with like a pole. They're like, listen to the sound of metal, and they just smash you across the head.
Yeah, it's like like a weird thing they'll say before a concert or something. Like you're about to witness the sound of metal.
Yeah, it's
and
like
then
they
played
THX like
metal.
speaker things like.
Yeah, yeah. I did have I had a very different expectation going into this. I thought this would be way more like heavy metal in its tone.
And there's like in the beginning, there's like a scene.
Yeah,
there's like 2 scenes of it in the first third of the film.
Yeah, and I remember because it's the first scene, I was like, here we go, heavy metal time. And then there was never any heavy metal time.
It's not about.
You're about
that.
to witness
I think that's
the sound of metal.
Yeah, I feel like we're venturing into spoiler.
Yeah, well,
territory.
We'll ride this out a little bit more before we get there.
Okay.
I will say, this movie so far this year has some of my favorite performances, like all around. Like 3 people. Like first of all, Riz Ahmed, who. Like, I've always loved him a lot. Like, I trying to think of... Because he was in 4 Lions, which was, like...
Right,
and he was so funny in that. And I was like, this dude is awesome. And then what else was he in? He was great in Nightcrawler. And it's just, like, I feel like here he delivers such a, like, passionate performance. And he's got, like, 3 movies out right now at the same time. And this is just, like, one of them. And I'm just like, you are a very talented... guy, because he did so much with this character specifically that I was pretty invested in.
I was just looking to see how many Riz Ahmed
we've
seen it, because I just happened to have seen the first 2 that you mentioned.
Yeah he's done a bunch of like big budget stuff too.
I think that's
it.
I think that's pretty much all I'm at is 4 Lions and Nightcrawler.
Hey, those are good ones.
Yeah. And now Sound of Metal. I don't think I've even seen Rogue One. I've not seen Rogue One.
It's fine. It's not even... I don't remember his performance in that, to be honest. It was not a memorable movie. But the other one is Paul Raci?
Paul Blart Mall Cop?
Paul Blart, yeah. But no, I've never heard of him. I haven't seen any of his other movies. He seems like, from what my very little bit of research, he seems like involved in metal in some way. But he plays the guy in charge of the program in the movie. I should have done research about like his his background, but he gave like I loved him in the movie because he immediately came across as like someone who is both very comforting. And, like, I'm like, I really like this guy. But he also, I can see why he reads as someone who Riz Ahmed's character is, like, kind of pushing away from or rejects in a way. Not off the bat, but, again, we're getting into spoilers. But I just thought he was a really great character that did a lot. And then Olivia Cooke as Lou. And she was... fantastic. I just think everybody killed it in this movie. I was like, wow, they're all doing great jobs.
Right. Because, again, this is a low-budget film where there's so much relying on the acting because it's just a character film. And, it works. I don't know what else to say. I'm like, they did good at their jobs.
Yeah. It's just...
the opposite of what I was doing when I just said... when I paused and said nothing and then said, the actors acted good.
They definitely acted,
I couldn't even tell they were acting. I thought they were the real people. That's how good they acted.
I just think, this movie could have been very, like, sappy, I guess. Or it could have been a very different movie, and it could have been kind of corny. And I felt like
especially with the sound, like the way they interpreted the deafness and like what he's hearing.
Yeah.
Like that could have gone very badly if it was mixed in like a different way.
Totally. Yeah. And instead it felt like a very mature and immersive. I always say that word, but this is like a very immersive movie.
It's like VR.
Literally. And that's why, okay. I don't Yeah. But that's why I think this was, I don't think it's the saddest movie we've talked about, but it is like one of the hardest movies I've had to watch, like in general, because it's like, at least to me, maybe I'm alone here, but I immediately got very uncomfortable when his hearing starts to go away. I'm like,
right.
Cause they don't really give you a chance to breathe either.
Yeah. This film is similar to like body, like horror, like gore stuff.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Cause it's, the auditory version of losing an arm.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, I mean, I think that obviously visually it's not the same, but I mean, that's almost makes it more frightening.
Yeah.
Because it's something you can't see that you could lose that's equally as important as like losing, an arm.
And that's why I think it's such a smart movie, the way it plays out, because it starts as like almost, like you said, like kind of a horror movie, and just how you're like, oh, this is terrifying. I don't know what I would do in this situation. Like you immediately feel like trapped and like you're in his position. I'm just like, I want this to be over. And then it like
you specifically really look like you're in position because it looks like you're wearing the same ear thing he was wearing when he drums.
I know. Yeah. I'm like this. It's got the same loop around. Yeah.
But you're just like
watching it with these earbuds, and I was like, "Wow, Jesus."
Dude, that was like when I watched Her with headphones.
Oh yeah,
it was the same thing where I'm like, "Whoa, I am way too into this."
You start feeling your own mustache.
Am I him?
Yeah. And is this her? Yeah.
I'm like, "Hey Siri." Oh no,
you actually activated Siri. Sorry.
It apologized. It's
fine. But yeah, I think a lot of like the genius of this movie is that it starts like that and then slowly like turns into more of like it's not even about the deafness anymore.
Yeah.
It's way more about just this guy kind of battling his own inner demons or whatever he's going through, and like how this was honestly just like another way of confronting those things. And yeah, I just thought that was really nice.
He had a very, I think, well established backstory that could have been kind of cheesy.
Yeah,
as like the drug addict background, but I think the way it was handled, I personally didn't feel like it was something where I'm like, oh, not this again.
Yeah, because that doesn't come up that often. Because it is like kind of in the past, as they mention in the movie. So it's like all of it was just very realistic and not played up for the like emotional manipulation or anything. It just was like, yeah, this is the scoop, and this is where he is.
I was glad that the way it was presented wasn't like the whole film wasn't just a like will he or won't he break and start doing a bunch of drugs.
Yeah.
It was more playing on projecting his inner struggle based off of his previous tendencies. Yeah. So it's like because he has this type of personality, you could see him handling this new challenge badly. Yeah. It wasn't like this new challenge is going to make him fall back into doing drugs necessarily. Right. Which I think was a much more interesting way to play it than the other way. Yeah.
No, totally. And the thing is, it's like it takes a minute, like it definitely like takes its time with that, I'm on his side most of it, and that's what's crazy is that like we're drifting into spoilers. Is there anything we should say that's non-spoiler before we talk about this part?
I think it was shot really well.
It was shot really well,
especially for like a low budget type of film. I think it looks great,
colored in a really specific way. I'm not an expert at color correction or grading. I can't speak on a lot of that. What if you were? I know.
What if you were like, I actually am an expert at this. I don't bring it up a lot.
Can I just do a quick rant? Now that I've graduated from DePaul, it's like I never really got the chance to actually like learn color there. And I'm like, I feel like I could have gotten into it, but I couldn't take it until my last quarter on Zoom.
Yeah.
But
that Zoom is not where you want to learned.
No, I'm like I this is bullshit. But
I do have one last thing to say.
Yeah,
that's not a spoiler. Is that the van production assistant I saw in the credits? They were credited as Nick Big Country Montgomery.
Wow.
So I just thought that was interesting.
Yeah. I thought you were gonna say like
that spoiled the movie. now that I know this is a Nick Big Country Montgomery production, I know exactly what's up.
I know what I'm getting into here. I thought you were gonna say something like you knew the guy, but
no, I don't know him, but I wish I did.
Wish we did, yeah. Definitely gonna look him up after this.
Nick Big Country Montgomery.
Cool. Well, I guess we can get into spoilers now. Briefly, I guess. But if you want to skip spoilers, head on over to the 39-minute, 7-second mark. I'll give you a few seconds to do that. Okay. What was I saying? Oh, okay. So the movie goes in this direction where it's like he kind of is saving up or figuring out a way to pay for this surgery to get his ears replaced. I don't know the right term, like what specifically it was, but he's just like going to fix his ears. And it's like they're alluding the entire time to the fact that like that's not the route and this is not a guaranteed fix, and it's best to just kind of cope with this and learn this new way of living instead of that. And it's like you see it coming, and when it doesn't work entirely, I'm just like, oh god, it's just so painful.
Yeah, and I think my interpretation was that it worked the way it's supposed to work. It's just that it's not an actual replacement for hearing. It's just sending signals to your brain that interpret it as like speech, but it kind of sounds just like, I mean, at least the way this film portrayed it. Of course, we can never know how it actually sounds.
Yeah.
Well, at least I hope I don't learn how it sounds.
Right.
But yeah, it just kind of sounds like a sort of feedback-ish, like lots of electronic noise signal.
Yeah.
But it's like you can, at least in individual conversations, you could still make out like words, but then in groups it was just like impossible.
Yeah. Which just, that
right, which is like obviously like it's like in the, you know, the whole up and down of the film, it was definitely like, oh, it was like, that was I don't know, that was almost the climax of the film in a way.
Yeah.
I guess it wasn't, but it like almost was.
Right. Yeah, man. This is that it's that charting film podcast talk. Misquoting characters, and I feel
giving you incorrect analysis.
Yeah, I guess that's the only like true spoilery thing I had to say. There's definitely more, but it's like it doesn't feel worth bringing up.
How do you interpret the ending?
That's a good question, because I was very didn't really know what it was trying to tell me. I thought it was a great ending. And it's like I truly didn't know where his character was at that point. I think he's like moving towards the acceptance, obviously. Yeah. He's like, it's a very good scene the way he takes them out, and it's like it's actually really nice. It's not nice, but it's like, you know what I'm trying to say.
Yeah.
And I really liked that as the ending. I mean, it's kind of what I saw it coming as a way of ending the movie, but at the same time I was like, they really sit with it, and I don't know. What did you think?
Yeah, no, I felt the same way, 'cause I mean, it's right after, the scene with Lou, where they kind of come to this mutual understanding that like the relationship's not working anymore.
Yeah.
But it was still, because it also was actually saying a lot about relationships, and that it's not necessarily a negative for relationships to end if they were valuable for the duration of them.
Yeah.
Like some relationships aren't meant to be lifelong things, because they both entered that relationship at a very like tenuous time in each of their lives, and it helped stabilize both of them for the duration of it, but like now they're in different places completely.
Yeah.
yeah, so like, I think that was like a very interesting way to handle that, and it was like kind of I don't know, it was kind of a heartwarming ending almost.
Yeah, totally.
Where because after that, you at the beginning of this film, that relationship ending like would have done a lot of bad things. In the fact that the reason I keep sounding this ambiguous because I forgot his name in the film.
Oh, me too. Wait, let me.
It's like five letters.
Yep. Let me just get.
He writes it.
It
on
is
the board.
It's Ruben. Yep.
Ruben. That's why I'm like.
I knew it started with an R. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Like the sandwich.
Right.
And
okay.
It's like, yeah, and if you think about it, life is a sandwich. But yeah, it would have. Yeah, it's like the way Ruben handled this ending of a relationship. Was obviously showed a lot of personal growth. And also realizing that the relationship where he was saying it was like his entire life at the beginning of the film, like he's realized that it was not.
Yeah.
And that,
Well, that's like why I think this movie works so well and doesn't come across as overly sappy, is that it's so much more emotionally mature than I think a lot of movies in general, because it's like it does not fall into the film cliches of like what is bad and what's good, and it's like
right, it's a gray area.
Yeah, and it fully recognizes that in every part of it, like both in the deaf thing and in the relationships, the addiction. It's just like super honest about it, and it's saying, and it's honestly like reassuring in that way that a movie for once is like, well, here's what happens if this is the case and how people cope with it.
Yeah, imagine if the film ended where they met back up and then they went on tour and they became like huge celebrities, and it just ended with them appearing on the Tonight Show.
There's a Jimmy Fallon cameo and everything.
Yeah.
Oh, that's great.
It would have been pretty bad. Wait, do your Jimmy Fallon impression.
No. It's my Jimmy Fallon impression is an impression of every other Jimmy Fallon impression. Where it's like, oh, wow, thanks you. I'm going to bleep it out.
Do not bleep that.
Oh, my God.
That is the best part of this episode.
Yep. Cool.
Anyways, that's what I have to say.
Yeah.
On this.
I also, one last thing about the ending.
Yeah.
Is it's super cool that like it almost it's like the ending but also a beginning, because this movie really is just capturing the denial part of it.
Right.
Of this process and him learning to get to the accepting thing. And there's like a whole nother movie that you could make after the ending of like him.
Yeah. Sound of Metal 2. Coming at you next summer.
Sound of Metal 2.
It's such a bad title. That's the only thing bad about this film.
Yeah. But yeah, they could go the Suicide Squad route and call it The Sound of Metal, because they're calling the second Suicide Squad The Suicide Squad instead of Suicide Squad.
The Sound of Metal 2. Even sound is, I don't know, it's like such a Sound of Music.
I know, I was about to say it's like the Sound of Music
just
parody.
Like doubling down, yeah.
Yeah.
It already sounds like that's what it is.
Yeah. Cool. Well,
like this sounds like the sound of like the name of a documentary about like a generic documentary about metal.
Sound of Metal. What if it was just metal sounds for like 2 hours?
Yeah.
What would we? I'd be like, wow.
Ding.
Like really picks up in the third act. Do I have any? I have this lamp. This is not metal.
That just sounds.
That's not metal. This is fake.
It sounded like a brick.
All right. We should just move on. Wait, this is. Never mind. Dropped a cup. Well, what are we feeling for a score?
I didn't even think about that yet. You go first.
I'm shooting pretty high here. I think it's a 4.5. 4? You're going 4?
Yeah, I think 4.
That's
fair. That's where I'm going.
Yeah. I really like.
I think I have to watch it again. I did like it a lot. So it's definitely in between 4 and 4.5.
You bring up one interesting thing, and I thought about this when I was watching it, because I had such a hard time watching it is that I don't know if I'll ever watch it again because I'm like, this is such a demanding movie. At least, I don't know. I found it to be.
One last thing is that the experience of watching this film, and I really don't think it's just because they're both about drumming, but it kind of felt like watching Whiplash a little bit.
Yeah? In what way? Just like...
In that, like, how tense you feel watching it. But it's like, one of it's because, like, the whole, loss of hearing, and then one is just, like, you just are anxious because of the fact that Whiplash is, like, the most anxiety-inducing film ever made.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, I don't know. I could be definitely making this connection because they're both about drumming.
Right.
Or both have drumming in them. Obviously, this is not a film about drumming.
I see where you're going, to be honest. I can hear you out here.
It's like there's a long, like, I don't know, the scenes are long in both.
Right.
And it's just like they stretch out like the feeling of a scene. It's kind of like a lot of the time one feeling that's just like stretched out.
Yeah.
And that feeling is anxiety.
For sure. Cool. Well, I think that does it for unless you have anything else to say.
You know what? Just cut that whole
minute. I didn't know what to say. I was like, Jeff summed it up pretty nicely. I think I can move on.
You have the Karsten sheet behind you.
Yeah, I didn't want to point it out. Let me come clean right now. No one has bought the blanket yet. No one has bought it. I don't think anyone will. People have said they want it, but it is like $55. I couldn't make it a cheaper price, and I don't think anyone's willing to drop that kind of money on a blanket with my face.
I think if it was $35, a lot of people would have bought it, but you just couldn't.
I couldn't. Yeah, they wouldn't let me on the site.
You would have lost money.
Yep.
You would have had to pay them.
Well, yeah. I mean, I've already lost money because I ordered that as a sample to pose with in the photos, and I'm not upset about it. I got a nice blanket.
Yeah.
But whoever the first person to order the blanket is, they will be acknowledged. I will, unless they don't want to be. Unless they want to go under anonymously, then I'll be like, of course, yeah, you can just own the blanket. Yeah. We'll get into questions. We have 4 this week. Really excited. This first one comes from Stop Motion Samurai, and it is, what is your favorite ABBA song?
All right. I mean, obviously, everyone likes Dancing Queen.
Dancing Queen is good. That was not going to be my answer. Because, it's because everyone loves Dancing Queen. Mine is, Fernando is mine. Fernando is a beautiful song that put me onto ABBA in the first place. I mean, I knew who they were, but that was the one where I was like, this is a great band. So my favorite's Fernando.
Yeah, I might just go Dancing Queen. Just
Hey, it's a classic. Makes you want to dance. Super Troopers also underrated, but and Gimme 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 is a fantastic. That's like up there with Dancing Queen. Like you can't hate on Gimme Gimme Gimme.
What if I just listed off some like really deep cut that like is not popular? What if I'm like, it's I'm a marionette?
I almost went the deep cut route. I don't know if it's that much of a deep cut because it was in the Mamma Mia sequel, but When I Kissed the Teacher, it's got 23 plays. That's not a deep cut, or 23 million. 23 would be. I was about to say 23 would be a. That's deep cut.
Deep
ass cut. I'm in a. I searched for this song. Cool. Well, that answers that. This next one is just for you. It is from Dr. Aneurysm.
It's just for me.
Just for you. Yeah. And it is.
All right, I'm ready.
Who's on Jeff's fantasy Premier League team? The thing is, though, this question is phrased like it's asking me who I think is on your team, and I don't have an answer to that.
List a name. Let's see.
I don't know any. I can't even pretend. I don't know any names, so I'm gonna let you take it.
Okay, so here's the answer. I don't have one.
Oh no.
I don't have a fantasy Premier League team.
All right.
I actually am going to be in a fantasy hockey league for the upcoming season, though.
Ooh.
But the fantasy Premier League, the way I actually haven't looked at it in a few years, but I played it Actually, I played it once, like maybe 9 years ago or something, or 8 years ago. Yeah, and it's just the way it wasn't in like a league where you were put against people. It was just like a league where you just tried to have the highest score possible. So it wasn't really that fun. I kind of like the leagues where you get in like weekly matchups against a person.
Yeah.
But also the nature of the sport, it's a bit more arbitrary than say like fantasy American football.
Right.
Where the scoring, that's kind of more interesting because it's a lot of smaller plays happen where the main things are it's pretty much just guessing who's going to score a goal every week is pretty much what fantasy Premier League is.
Yeah. Which it's a weird thing.
It's guessing who's going to score a goal and then which person's team is not going to concede a goal.
Yeah.
So you just try to like, but then it's also like you have to try to keep as many of the same players week to week on the team without swapping them. So yeah, but that's what it comes down to is like, I think this guy's going to score 3 goals this week, so I'll make him my team captain and get double points. Like, it's not that interesting.
Yeah. I never was able to get into any fantasy anything because I'm just like, I don't see the
you have to
hype.
be at least rudimentarily into, is that even a word?
Yeah.
Rudimentarily?
No, I don't, well.
I'm going to Google it.
Yeah, that is a word, but I don't know if that's the way you use it. Unless I'm having a goof right now. I would say like
no, I think it's just rudimentary.
Okay,
I don't think rudimentarily is a way you can use it.
I didn't know that's what you said. Yeah,
I knew rudimentary was obviously a word, but I wasn't sure if rudimentarily.
Yeah,
it's like I guess not. But I kind of forgot what I was going to say.
You got to be into sports.
You got to be into sports because I don't particularly love watching American football, but I can get into it enough because it's like the statistics behind it, and then I know what I'm looking for when I watch the games, right? Because there's a channel in the US at least called NFL Red Zone, and it just shows you the highlights live of all of the games happening.
Yeah.
So you only see exciting stuff and you never have to watch commercials.
That's really nice.
So that's like, if you're going to watch football, that's the way to do it.
Yeah. Because the most boring parts are just the standing around
the commercials. Because the ball's in play for like a few minutes a game, even though it takes 3.5 hours.
Yeah.
Anyways, that answers that question.
That's sport.
The answer
honestly
was no.
I honestly take your time with these questions because I'm realizing we have 2 more left, and they're both very short answers.
Okay.
These both come from patrons.
Well, the answer might be no again.
Yeah.
All right, I'm ready. I actually do have like a quick, if you want to stretch this out by 1 more minute.
Go ahead.
One thing I didn't get to in the intro was that since I've been like at home in Florida, I realized there's a few video games that I never played that I owned growing up.
Oh.
And now I've started to try to get through them because I feel bad that I just like owned these games and never played them. So I'm playing Uncharted for the PS3. That game's kind of good.
Yeah, I've heard good things, I think.
Even though it's like 13 years old at this point. But like the graphics I wouldn't say they hold up to like modern graphics, but the jump from like the PS2 to the PS3 was like the biggest jump, where it's like the graphics got like 4 times as good from PS2 to PS3.
Yeah.
But then from like PS3 to PS5, they've only gotten like maybe 50% better.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's been a good time.
Yeah. Nice.
Anyways, I guess we can get back to the question.
Well,
that's completely unrelated to anything, and you had no idea what to do with that. You were just like...
I zoned out. I just was like, that's a weird speck on my screen. But the next question's actually like, what have you been playing for video? It's not the question. These next 2 come from patrons, $15 patrons. If you ask a question in our thread and you're a $15 patron, you get it answered in these episodes. This first one comes from Michael Decker, and it is, does Jeff ever want to read the patron names, or does he hate all of us? I'll let you take the stage here.
So here's the thing. Up until about a week ago, I didn't even have access to the patron login info. So I couldn't even bring that up on my screen if I wanted to.
Yeah.
But as of a week ago, I actually do have access to that now, but I just haven't ever logged in yet.
Right. So I could shoot you over never mind. I downloaded like the CSV file of all the patron names.
Oh.
They don't make it easy. They don't.
Oh.
Because I have to open
I guess
like
it would be
text
a
edit.
Screen sharing would probably be the...
Yeah. But that's just...
How about this? How about for the 100th episode, I'll do it.
Yeah. Jeff will read the names for the 100th episode. Cool.
It's just a small treat.
Just a few weeks away, yeah. Cool. Where was I? I closed Zoom. Oh, okay. So then we have one more, and it is from Saba, $15 patron, and it is, have you ever been to Finland? Jeff? I have not. Have always wanted to go.
You haven't been to Finland?
Never been to Finland. Would love to go.
Can't believe you've never been to Finland.
So you've been to Finland?
No, I haven't been to Finland. So here's the thing. Okay. When I planned my trip last year, I started it October 6th, and that's right when it starts getting cold that far north.
Yeah.
So my plan was to start as far north as it was like reasonably temperate. So like, around maybe 8 degrees or more Celsius. Mm-hmm. So like in the mid to high 40s Fahrenheit or higher.
Yeah.
And I looked like it actually was equally as cheap to fly into Helsinki as it was where I ended up flying.
Oh.
But with the way the timing worked out, I didn't get there because I ended up starting in Riga, Latvia, which is fairly close to Finland. Mm-hmm. But just north of Latvia is Estonia, and then their capital is Tallinn. But Tallinn is like just a ferry ride across from Helsinki.
Yeah. So
I was like, well, if I go to, Tallinn or Helsinki, I got to go to the other one of those. Mm-hmm. And that was going to be like, if I want to spend 4 days in like each place or at least 3.
Yeah.
That like put everything back by a week and it was starting to get colder. So I just kind of arbitrarily made the choice that if I was going to go to one of those places, I was going to go to the other. So I was going to make that like a future trip.
Nice.
So I've not been to Finland, but I definitely plan on going.
Yeah. Hey, I'll tag along if you're down.
Yeah.
I really want to go to Finland. I'll just...
Yeah, I mean, honestly, Finland, like I love Scandinavia because I've been to Sweden a couple times. Mm-hmm. And I've been to Denmark. And I also love the Baltics.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, yeah, so I haven't been to Estonia, but I've been to Latvia and Lithuania.
Nice.
They're very pleasant.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I would love to visit. I want to do... I'm just like... I have like such a travel kick now. As soon as it's like okay again and like safe.
Oh, we can like meet up.
Oh, totally.
Yeah.
I'm trying to go back to France.
We can visit Vegard Strom.
Yeah, we'll do like a tour and just visit. We'll do another Karstcast hat run and personally deliver them ourselves. So, yeah. Cool. Well, that does it for questions. Thank you, guys. We have a lot of other patron questions in that thread, and those will all be answered in an exclusive bonus episode coming soon. Jeff and
Unless they're a $15 patron, and then they will be answered
here.
The next one of this.
Yep.
The normal podcast.
So I guess we'll get into our wrap-up. We like to begin by saying what we're going to talk about next week. Once again, Jeff and I did not talk about it beforehand.
We did not do that.
But let me pitch you this, Jeff.
Yeah.
Tenet is going to be out by the time we record next week. Would you like to talk about Tenet?
Yeah. I mean, speaking of not being able to hear.
Yeah, that's because apparently they have bad...
Because that's what I've heard is the mixing of the dialogue.
We'll go from one of the best...
That was the biggest like film person joke I've ever made in my life.
Yeah. I love how, we're going really from like the best sound design of the year to apparently the worst. So, or at least the mix. But, so yeah, we'll talk about Tenet next week. It will be available to rent on all platforms. I don't know how expensive it's going to be yet. I assume it'll be like a little pricey, but we'll see.
It'll be fine.
It'll be fine. Yeah.
I mean, unless it's somehow like $100.
In that case, we'll obviously switch. But yeah.
Yeah, but I can't. That would be a weird decision.
Yeah, on their part. I'm like, really? You guys, I mean, they did lose a lot of money. I wouldn't be surprised. But I'm like, okay.
We got to recoup it from you specifically, Carson.
Cool. Next, we'd like to read a review. This one comes from Hallow World from the USA. 4 stars. And it reads, I actually wanted to read this one because I wanted your take on this. It reads, I would like it a lot more if they talked about How To with John Wilson. Edit, I wrote this the day before the 89th episode came out, and they talked about Nathan Fielder, and they didn't even talk about How To with John Wilson. Disgraceful. Even baited me in the title. I am such a fool. Jeff, you're very excited.
Okay, here's the thing. I just started watching that 2 days ago.
Really?
Yeah. Literally, I watched the first episode the day before yesterday.
That's hilarious.
And I'm going to keep watching it. It's really good.
I was going to say, it's one of my... I'm halfway through it. I know it's like you could plow through all of it in like one night, but
yeah.
I'm in love with this. I honestly don't want it to end, which is why I'm like kind of moseying my way through.
Yeah, well, they just renewed it for a second season, I believe.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It is so funny. And
it really is the next like step in the type of comedy that Nathan For You is.
Yeah.
And that it because it has to become more real and grounded, because that Nathan For You is the most extreme end of that type of like faux reality, where this it's kind of, it's much more grounded, but it's also like strangely emotionally impactful.
That's what I was gonna say. Yeah, first episode is like so heartwarming in a way.
So I'm excited for the rest of it.
Yeah, I think it's really good.
So good review, except for now change it to 5 stars, because we talked about it.
We did talk about it, and we'll probably talk about it more when we finish it. So cool. Thank you though for the nice.
We could make that like an episode. No, we shouldn't make that an episode. We could, but we'll talk about it on an episode.
I was gonna pitch it as an episode, but maybe
we could make it as an episode. I wasn't. Yeah,
we'll
I was
hear
trying
it out.
to think about what we. Yeah, we'll discuss making an episode. Worst case, we'll talk about it more.
Of course. Cool. Lastly, we want to thank our lovely patrons over at patreon.com/Karstcast. If you'd like to get in on the fun, go over to patreon.com/Karstcast, where you can get exclusive access to bonus episodes, Q&As, shout-outs at the end of every episode, Zoom Hangouts, and much, much more. We will have those bonus episodes to you very soon. Promise. And, that's the scoop.
That's it.
Here's that shout-out. Thank you, Addison Ware, Allison Grace, Annabelle Falk, Bex, Blake Root, Boat, Brandon Yu, Brock Schultz, Camilla Eden, Fozzie Bear, Grant Gow, Harry Remedianakis, Hi Jeff, Iron Tusk 93, Isabel, Iva, Jaden Easton, Jacob Kolnes, Jane Vass Botten, John Van Hout, Joshua Kraswicki, Kara M, KDT, Kevin Turner, Liqui, Liv Rob, Lucian Vecina, Luke Vinyard, Maddie Robertson, Martin Def, Martina, Mary Lee Borslow, Micah Simmons, Michael Decker, Moses Ox, Monroe Page should make a Minnesota hot dish in the next hangout. Parks, Rarston Kunquist. I don't like that at all. Ready, Steady, Ernie, Riley Oust, Robert Burke, Saba, Sam Farr, Sophia Arietta, Supercalifragilisticexpialidocious, Smitty Werbin, Jagerman Jensen, Taylor Hardy, Toad Pimp, Tom Lakes Beans, Vegard Strom, Vera S, Wait a Second, Jeff, I Thought I Fired You, Yolki Sasquatch, and Yusef A. Yeah, I really fired you a while ago. You got to get out of here.
Good patron rating.
Good, solid. Yeah, definitely gets a little chunkier every time, doesn't it?
Which is a good thing.
Good thing, yeah. Thank you guys for all the support. Yep. We really appreciate it. God, I had one other thing I wanted to say, but I forgot what it was. So I don't know. Okay,
that's like the biggest cliffhanger of all time. Ending a podcast like that.
Yeah, I don't know what to say. I guess we'll figure out in the next episode, won't we?
Yeah. Well, tune in next time.
90 seconds.
To hear what it was that Karsten wanted to say.
Yeah. All right. Well, Jeff.
See, that'll keep him coming back.
Jeff, do you have anything else to say?
Yeah, I'll get to my thing. Catch you on the flip side.
Oh, I just remembered what I was gonna say. It's catch you on the flip side.
Wait, was that actually?
No, it wasn't. It was
flip side.